Hey, what is up, everyone? Kilryan and Flo here, bringing you the fourth Everything TERA weekly podcast. For those of you who don't know who I am, I'm Kilryan. I make guides on YouTube as well as an active streamer on Twitch and a guide poster on TERA Today.
Let's mess this up. Hi, my name is Flo. I'm a competitive 3v3er, and I also do a lot of Slayer-specific guides and a lot of explanation on PvP. So if you want to know anything about PvP, just get to know me. And I announce on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, etc.
All
So what do
right.
we talk about today?
Today we're going to be talking about three things. Race benefits. So a lot of people have always been kind of curious, like, oh, should I roll Ellen? Should I roll human? Should I roll whatever? And there are slight differences that we're going to be going over today. We're going to be talking about the new Equalized 3v3 that they implemented for strictly solo queue. And then lastly, a lot of people are kind of freaking out about the key events. Key events being like the lock strong boxes. You're probably seeing 1,000 premium outcasts and stuff like that. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. First thing though is going to be the racial benefits. So what racials are is anytime you happen to choose a race within TERA, there are actual set racials. In other words, like little buffs that you get. These things are things such as 1% crit behind crit for Castanics, as well as like reducing their falling damage. Humans and Amons get 10% damage reduction under 50% health. Barakas have like a long cooldown, instant full heal, as well as 10 stun resist. And then Ellen and Papori, being awesome with their increased swim speed. But more what we wanted to talk about was the actual like subtle hidden passives or hidden racials, a lot of people call them, that each race provides per class/race combo. So do you want to talk about Slayer for right now?
Okay, well, the thing is that before we even get into specific class differences, we should understand that when you're playing each of these races, there are certain like every race has different ranges at which they hit at. Like, for example, Barakas, their melee range, they have the shortest melee range out of every race so far. So they're always gonna fall a little bit short behind people. So with saying that, in terms of Slayer, what it comes right down to is that each of your skills, especially like your heart thrust and such, it has different ranges. My Ellen can hit up to 11 meters, whereas my Baraka would hit up to 7. And so when you're deciding a race on what to play for Slayer, the best distinction is based upon solid animations, and I always recommend the same races over and over again. I always recommend Castanic, Human, Amon, and Ellen. Those are the four races that have the most consistent animations without having any kind of flunky little things that always get in the way. Yeah.
So regarding that though, for example, Amons with Slayers. I know we don't want to go like super nitty gritty with this, but like Amons have an easier time hitting heart thrusts. So a lot of players who play Slayer complain about their heart thrust missing and whatnot. Would you say going like Amon would be a good idea for that?
Yes, it would be a great idea for that. Like, heart thrust is the absolute most important skill to use as a Slayer. And if you're not being able to hit it consistently, mainly because of your range falling too short or hitboxes just getting in the way, then yes, playing Amon would be perfect for you.
Okay. And then moving on to like Berserkers. Like I'm a Berserker player. There is a slight variation, but most people want to play a pretty set, much like Slayer, play set core races with the Berserker class. Ellen is my absolutely preferred one. However, I have seen success with both what's called human male are really, really well balanced. High elf female actually have a very good overall. They're fast, like they're pretty fast with all their animations, but except for flatten. And then lastly, like Castanic female is a lot comparable to Ellen in terms of speed and whatnot. Same hitbox as well. The reason why I prefer Ellen, however, is a lot of people get trolled by Berserkers since we're so reliant on that one hit hitting. Berserkers can actually jump. Like, if I'm Thunderstriking, I leap forward. So that is probably one of the most trolly things. It is the same distance comparable to, let's say, like a Popori or a Castanic female doing Thunderstrike. However, people always get misled by the jumping distance of Thunderstrike with Ellens. On top of that, their auto attack animation is much smoother, which if you're an active PvPer is absolutely core, and that's why a lot of people don't play Poporis, is because their auto attack animation is very, very slow compared to all the other races that are available for Berserker. So those are our two main classes, and we've kind of compiled a little bit of a list of the other classes, though if you are a veteran player or a person who has played Popori or Human or whatever for however long, and you know probably a lot more than nitty gritty, but we just want to kind of go over the overview of this. Next up, I'd like to talk about Lancers. The two main points about Lancers that I've noted are Ellens actually have the farthest reaching range. So if you're poking someone with like auto attack and whatnot, Ellens are going to be reaching the farthest. I think it's like somewhere around like 6 meters, 7 meters or something along those lines. While on the other end of that, High Elf Male, which you see a lot of the really, really high-end Lancers such as Gold roll with the High Elf Male because their shield barrage speed is actually faster, and that lets them kind of weave in between in and out.
In terms of Lancer, though, the most important thing about picking a Lancer race is a technique that people call skating, in a sense where you're auto attacking and then you're canceling your auto attack with your block. So with that being said, Ellen has like, as much as people like are always say like every Lancer is an Ellen, like it's not exactly a joke. It's pretty serious. Ellens are capable of actually just zipping through the maps through constantly auto attack blocking over and over and over again, and it's just kind of like, in a way, it's kind of cheating the system, but it's the main reason why most Lancers are actually Ellen. Surprised to say.
Yeah, but keep in mind, for everyone who is listening and whatnot, these are very, very minor. These are very minor things, and in my opinion, it's only something that if you're looking to be a very high-end PvPer and min-maxing your character to like the smallest of differences, then these race differences really only apply to that. If you're just like a PvEer and like a casual player, feel free to play a Baraka, feel free to play that Amon, whatever you know, find out whatever works for you. But moving on from that small point, the cloth races within, or the cloth classes, sorcerer, priest, mystic within TERA seem to have a fairly, like, with them being ranged and whatnot, they don't have as big of a difference compared to the melee classes such as Berserker, Warrior Slayer, and Lancer. But there are some notable things, such as Ellen Sorcerers actually have a slightly faster full combo. The full combo can be found on like Sorcerer guides typically and whatnot, but it is like a fraction of a second, like half a second quicker, so that means that their animations end up being a little bit smoother throughout it. But sorcerers such as Haimon, who's arguably the best sorcerer in the game right now, he plays human male because of the consistency in which their static trap as well as their painful trap have in their animation. Other classes such as Popori, actually when they cast their painful trap, it'll be quick, but then when they cast their stun trap, it's actually a very slow animation, and so that kind of inconsistency can cause a lot of annoyance with some sorcerer players. So if you are looking to be a high-end PvP player, you can, as a sorcerer at least, you can look into human male. And then for mystics and priests, from what I understand, I don't think they have really any racial benefits other than like hitboxes, which you were talking about earlier.
And hitboxes is extremely important as a healer because you don't want to get hit, which is why all the smaller races are like a lot more appealing, since you don't want to die, you don't want to get hit. Your job is to support your team, of course. So
everyone roll a Baraka priest. You don't die anyway. You don't have to worry about it. And then lastly, the last two that we're going to be talking about is the archer as well as the warrior. I know a little bit about these, but we've kind of had to consult a couple other people regarding what the benefits are of these. So we're going to talk about, for what I know regarding archers. Archer Popori, or for the archer class, Popori is easily the most consistent because of their kick. Kick is really the determining factor between consistency when it comes to races for the archer class, because what it comes down to is like he's just kicking your knees basically, so he never misses. It never flies over your head. Flo, I think you said something about high elf female with archer.
Yeah, with close quarters as a Popori, it's it's by far the quickest animation possible. But like I was talking about with hitboxes, having a smaller or large hitbox, high elf females, when they double kick, as for example a smaller hitbox such as a Popori or an Ellen, they'll kick right over them. So you're gonna completely miss your skill in entirety. And close quarters is by far one of the most important skills to land as an archer, since it's basically the initiator of your 100-0 combo. So yeah,
and that's balanced.
Yeah.
But for the most part, with that in mind, though, I still think that every single race you can find its niche. There are those benefits, though, and more like equalize, like animations and whatnot. So if you're looking to PvP as a Popori or as an archer, you probably want to go Popori just due to that consistency. And then lastly, we have warrior. I actually wasn't listening too much to Suzumiya, who's an absolutely excellent warrior who's tried out all the different ones. So I'll let this.
He's tossed me a few things. What he was telling me was that Ellen is by far the strongest race as a warrior, and that's mainly because the biggest thing about a warrior from Suzumiya's perspective is mobility. And he was telling me about how his combative strike actually hits 2 meters farther than every race in the game, which helps him like establish that pressure and stick onto targets. And he was also telling me that from his point of view, the most solid animations were from Ellen, Kastanik, I believe he said female human, and I think I think high elf male wasn't too bad either from what he was telling me. But the most important thing that he was telling me was that Kastanik female and Ellen was by far his best experience as playing as a PvP warrior. So those are races that I would recommend, just because it's from such a great warrior himself.
Yeah. Well, talking about just kind of applying that constant pressure with a warrior, like, that's your job. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, like, having that 2 extra meters could be the difference between staggering out a heal or just completely missing and throwing the game. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, I think if you are looking to PvP as a warrior, as Flo said, as Suzumiya recommended, Ellen or Kastanik would be the best way to go. So we've been talking a lot about racials with PvP, and so next up we're going to be actually transitioning into equalized PvP. This is for both like Corsairs as well as the new 3v3, but we're going to focus a little bit more on the new implementation of Equalized 3v3 solo queue. What Equalized is pretty much any time that you go into a battleground, whether it be solo queue 3v3 or Corsair Stronghold, they're going to be giving you equalized gear, meaning everyone has the same gear set. This kind of balances it out, so newer players have their way in there, so it's not like before, unless you went into 3v3 with full strike force plus 12, you're going to get dominated. And with this new gear that they implemented, I personally like it. The stats are better than the Corsair Stronghold equalized gear, and I think that adds a little bit more balance to it comparing to like Corsairs. I felt a lot of times certain classes were a lot weaker than others because they're like attack speed reliance, and they actually
the gear is great actually in Equalized solo queue because they add these little like niche things that actually give classes a lot more of like an advantage. For example, since Equalized solo queue was revamped in TERA before we got our their refined version on our side.
Mm-hmm.
They gave like healers like a cooldown reduction. They gave more crit rate on rings, giving Zerkers, the opportunity to crit for once, and along with the two range classes, archers and sorks, since crit rate is a very strong stat. So the gear is actually like there's still even though everyone's wearing the same gear, the differences will end up being the crystals that you have, with the crystals that you're wearing,
Mm-hmm.
obviously, and skill. Like that's what makes Equalized solo queue a lot more fun.
Yeah. One thing to note on top of that, though, is that Equalized does not mean that they're, like you said, the crystals. Equalized does not mean that they're going to be giving everyone the same crystals. So if you're looking to go into Equalized, make sure you have, like, your pristine Griefing Cruxes and your pristine Indomitable Zerks. And make sure you know what your setups are. Whether it be through like TERA Today guides or like YouTube channels and whatnot, you need to make sure that you have the right crystal setup. On top of crystals, though, you didn't say glyphs. Advanced glyphs you have to obtain outside of that. So any glyph setups and whatnot, you need to be making sure that you know exactly what you need before you really queue into 3v3. Even though it is Equalized gear, it is still the high-end PvP content, and you need to make sure that you're aptly equipped for that.
Yeah, being optimal on your tune is completely important. So if you don't have the right glyphs and you're gonna go up against someone that's been doing like end game content longer than you, like as much as Equalized solo queue screams jump in and play as soon as you hit 60, you should really take the steps to prep up beforehand before you go in, get your right crystals, your right glyphs, and then just go in there and actually see what it's like.
Yeah, but what it does bring to the table for people looking to PvP is with it being Equalized, they don't have to spend hours upon hours gearing up I'd say weeks upon weeks gearing up and setting up. Now it's like once you get your proper glyphs and whatnot, you're able to jump in. You still need to understand your class, which is what Corsair Stronghold's for, which is what Freywind's for. Do your battlegrounds, go duel outside, and understand your class, but it allows players to really jump into that competitive 3v3 environment a lot sooner than they were previously without getting kicked on, entering. Because me and you both have probably kicked players on our 3v3 team who literally hop in and they're just like, it's my first game. They're in steadfast plus 6, and you're just like, sorry, dude, but you're literally nothing in here.
Yeah, exactly. Having not even the right gear before they're getting in here is just it's really toxic in a sense where it's like you're being a lot more of a burden on your team, whereas you just want to go in there and play. So having Equalized solo queue actually gives everyone the chance to do PvP, endgame PvP, and I know that a lot of people enjoy just watching 3v3, so actually being a part of it for once, but despite the fact of not being as geared as the endgame community, it just kind of screams out a new kind of experience for people.
Yeah, I think it's pretty cool because with me and you both being streamers, we can actually say, hey, queue up with try to queue into me now. And
snipe me.
Snipe me, yeah. I try to do that all the time against you. But for the most part, I think that is cool that they did equalize it, and it'll give us streamers a little bit more interaction with our communities solely just by saying, hey, queue up into me and whatnot, or queue up with me for the solo queue. So far, my experience though with Equalized 3v3 has been not exactly the greatest, because though it is new, like we were saying, a lot of people kind of are hopping in unprepared, and for lack of a better word describing it, it has been a very trap experience. I go in and there are people who are straight up 1k flat rating. For those of you who don't know about 3v3, it's based on an ELO system. So you start with 1000 flat rating, earn points if you win, lose points if you lose. And so I've entered, I don't even know how many times now, with flat 1k rating players that are very clueless. And so my experience with it so far being a berserker, which is kind of reliant on my team, like helping set up sometimes at least, has been pretty bad. What about you? What have your experiences been?
I'm actually the trap myself. What
Oh,
I did,
yeah?
I think, was it yesterday or the day before, I was doing an Equalized solo queue marathon where I was switching classes and kind of putting up a poll. Hey guys, what class do you want to see me play next?
Oh my god.
And I think it's really fun. You get to play with being in there. You can definitely see the difference in skill. Like the people that you normally see in solo queue were kind of the regulars. Like you really saw like this person here. Oh, I faced him in the other solo queue. He wasn't too bad. Maybe he's on my team this time. But now it's like there's so many different people you're gonna be fighting that each solo queue won't be the same. I feel like it's just either gonna be completely messy, or you're gonna do some phenomenal stuff and completely crush the other team.
Yeah. Hopefully, what the community, because even in the trap queues, I was kind of saying like oh well, like here's what you can do better. Here's where you can learn. Go check out guides on TERA today or whatever it may be, and people seem to like that. Like, I didn't have people raging like we're playing League of Legends or anything. People were just kind of like trying to learn and get a feel of what they can do better. And so hopefully the small amount of ragers, or the ragers that you do come across in solo queue, especially in the lower ELOs, hopefully they're not the kind of people who like make newer players into 3v3 want to stop queuing and just give up on it. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
Here, go ahead.
I think that the equalized solo queue will be the first step for a lot of people. I know that the concept of 3v3 in the community, from what I've noticed, is that people are pretty intimidated, since it's like, oh, it's like serious PvP, etc. And now that it's equalized, it truly is a good training ground for people to just come in here, actually learn your class from like a very, like kind of like under a magnifying glass, you know what I'm saying? Like, you get to actually see yourself perform in a small scale environment. And I feel like this will, it will be flaky at first. I feel like kind of like messy in a sense, where people like, there's gonna be a lot of amateurs, a lot of good players, but overall I feel like it's gonna boost the skill of the community overall, so long as they continue to participate in it.
So if you are a newer player, don't get discouraged. Just keep playing. And I think 2 weeks down the line, like you said, I think that the ELO discrepancy will be a little bit wider, to where the more veteran players are going to be up, 1200 plus, 1300 plus ELO, and probably, like, if there's enough of us queuing, we're going to get paired against each other, while the lower ELO players are going to be able to play in their more set skill level. Because I know for a fact, like, if I go up against like a really bad priest, or I shouldn't say really bad, but like a newer priest, then I can just like KD chain them for days, and they have no idea what to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so like you were saying, I think for the most part, if people continue playing it and continue trying to get better in 3v3, it'll overall raise the PvP skill cap, as well as just bring more people into the 3v3 environment, which I hope for. Because we know that solo queue times and like 3v3, even team 3v3 queues, aren't there sometimes. So if this can bring more people into it, I think it's going to be a very, very good thing.
Yeah.
Okay. And now we're going to hopping off the entire PvP and race discussion. We're going to be ending it all with the key events. A lot of people have been saying, congratulations, you win 1,000 premium Outcast and stuff like that. Which, for those of you who don't know what key events are, they're these events that Inmass hosts to make money, basically, and I think equalize the economy some, that they do probably, I would say, every 2 to 3 months. With the key events, you use a Strongbox key, which you can either buy from the Inmass Cash Shop, or on the auction house. A lot of people post up keys, typically around this time they're like 500 gold a piece, or even by doing your daily Corsair Stronghold, you're going to get a Strongbox key. Typically, though you can open strong boxes throughout the entire, like, at any time, you want to normally save your keys for these set events. The With the set events, basically they give you a very small percentage chance to get an obscene amount of, whether it be Outcast or Mastering Enigmatic Scrolls. Those are the only two that we've seen so far. And so right now, currently as of, I think it ends Monday on February the 24th, you have a small chance to get out of any box that you open, 1,000 Premium Outcasts. Premium Outcasts are new, but they're supposed to actually be better than Extensives. And for the most part, I think with the Outcast the new Outcast implementation, I like key events. Like, what is your take on key events for the most part?
I think when a key event happens, I feel like there's going to be an influx of all of these like materials that you're going to generally need to gear up your tune. And I think that depending on the time, I feel like you can either positively help the economy overall, since there's going to be more items involved, whereas sometimes I feel like it's going to really crush the economy in a sense where sometimes like you're just not going to be able to afford this brand new stuff that you feel will give you a better advantage.
So, I mean, in that situation, like, in my opinion, it's more of a positive. It's more of a positive influence, because if you look right now, extensive outcasts were going for 140 gold a piece, like before this event, and now I'm seeing them down to 100 gold a piece, or even like 90 gold a piece, and then these premium outcasts, they're coming in as well. Which are getting finally posted up for even as low as 100 gold a piece as well. I like when this sudden rush of new materials come into the market, because a lot of the lower or fresh 60 players and whatnot don't have the gold to afford it. And though they're kind of like, oh, I can't afford the Strongbox keys, they can still buy the Outcast from the people who are getting it. Or if you have a gambling problem, you can always, buy Strongbox keys with actual gold or actual money, and then, test your luck there. But I personally think it has a more positive effect than a negative one. I'm not sure, like, how, as far as the negative aspect of it, I think, for the most part, it's probably just a morale reduction of some players who like will buy keys, or players who don't have like real life money to spend, or don't want to spend real life money, and then they see all these players getting it. I think that's the only real negative connotation. I don't know.
Well, that also don't forget the fact that people at the end game community are trying to productively make money here, whereas when these events happen, it's gonna plummet their market a little bit. So it's kind of the event helps new people get their gear up, whereas it harms people that are already making money consistently. So it's both positive and negative, but I feel like, to me, and I think that it's a lot, the key event should happen more often, and people need to get their gear plus 12 and actually enjoy endgame PvP as it is, or endgame content in general as it is. So
yeah, but on top of that, if you are kind of like a merchant of all of this, people, like the people who have money, are making money, are buying this cheap outcast right now and saving it up for like the patch. That they're going to be making good money. It's just a matter of patience. Mm-hmm. But for the most part, I think a lot of players who see this, they start yelling pay to win. However, I personally disagree, because I think it's one of those things that, like I stated before, positively affects the economy for the most part, because a lot of the items that are given out are kind of, what's in demand, like in mass and whatnot. They'll kind of cater it to where, like, okay, people are probably trying to get pumped and ready for the next patch and whatnot. Outcast would be a good idea right now. So I think that that's the way that they choose either Outcast or 300 Mass Reckoning Mag Scrolls. So for the most part, I don't think it's very pay to win, seeing as how I bought most of my, because I won 1,000 Outcasts for this event, but I won it by actually buying keys with gold that I've earned. So, like, what is your take on this pay to win? What people say?
Well, before I even talk about whether or not it's pay to win, I should talk about my last experience with the last key event, which was the same concept, 1,000 Outcasts. I actually saved 80 keys. And all 80 of those keys were saved up from me doing Corsairs on my daily every day. No money spent at all for a key event, and actually got like what 3,000 or 4,000 Outcasts back in the day.
That's lucky.
I think that that's lucky. Yeah, exactly. So the opportunity is there. In terms of pay to win or not, you have to realize that when you have your plus 12 gear already, what advantage do you have? Like, you remember that there's still a chance of you failing, and some people have the worst luck. I have the worst luck when it comes to enchanting. It's not going to make much of a difference whether it's pay to win or not. I feel like there's no giant advantage that you're going to have over another player if you end up both having the same gear at the end of the day. So.
Okay, yeah. For the most part, I think people who start yelling "pay to win" are players who can't afford it or view it as like, I can't get this right now. Look at all these people getting this. It's like, well, yeah, because we're players who've been doing our dailies every single day for Corsairs. We're players who have been saving our gold. We're the players who've been merchanting for a while. Though you do have players who drop money on the game. Obviously, it helps keep the game going. But I honestly think that that's a minority compared to a lot of the players who are winning it. The people who you see winning 1,000 Outcasts for the most part are the players who have saved up their keys or bought it with gold. Like, I know Saber, for example, doesn't drop money on it. They just have a lot of gold that they've done from merchanting and opening boxes in the past and whatnot. And I know they got like 4,000, 5,000 premium Outcasts this event. But in my opinion, it's not pay to win at all. It just helps stabilize the economy in some situations, or boost it and give people, that chance, because everyone likes a little bit of that adrenaline of it. So the end question would be: is it worth it? Like, do you think it's worth it trying to save use key, like buying keys with gold and whatnot? Like, is it worth it to you?
The key prices are literally fluctuating up and down around 500 to 700 gold. I think that I think it's whatever, but at the same time there are other rewards that you get a lot. Like, if you're not getting the 1,000 Outcast reward, you have a chance of getting the 300 to 700 extensive Outcast,
200
400.
extensives.
Is it 200? No, there's another one too, actually.
What?
There's another blip that pops up where you can get more than 200 Outcasts. And then you can get up to like 400 Spellbind apparently too off of the reward. So it's not. I feel like you should really label out a moderation in terms of what. Like, I think it's worth it to do it, but in terms of maybe going overkill, I've heard a lot of bad stories so far. So it's just kind of like telling me, just kind of label out your own moderations to go from there.
So if you happen to get 50 keys, guys, and let's say you get 2,000 premium Outcasts in that time, that doesn't mean that you should go drop a $100 bill on EMP and get 200 more keys to not get anything. Or let's say, like myself, with 50 keys, I won 1,000 Outcasts, and I was like, oh, that's cool. And then I was like, well, I got some more gold I can spend, and I ended up dropping another like 50k and didn't get anything. So if you have a gambling addiction, keep this in mind. You're not going to, like, it's gambling. It's pure gambling. It's pure RNG. I know a lot of you probably have these little secret ways. Like, I know some people put items in certain spots of their inventory. They'll go on top of the auction house in Lumbertown and pray to the fucking Helix fossil. But, like, for the most part, it is RNG, so be careful if you're going to be trying to throw all of your earnings into Strongbox keys. Any final thoughts on keys for you?
Watch your wallets. I've seen people drop a couple 100,000 and get absolutely nothing so far. It's torture. Don't do it. Don't fall for it. Like, it's either a money making scheme on NMAS's part, or just you're gonna die. Like, like you're gonna look at yourself at the end of the day like, man, I shouldn't have done this event. So stay in moderation.
Moderation is key.
Moderation is key.
Alright, guys, this is going to be end of the podcast. Hopefully you enjoyed our talks today. Today we went over the racial benefits of each class/race combo, the new Equalized 3v3, as well as a little bit touching up on Corsairs and what it's going to bring to the community. And then lastly, the gambling addiction of key events. Hopefully you all enjoyed the Everything TERA podcast, guys. This was our 4th week in a row. And if you are wanting to submit topics, please do, mind you. If you want to hear us talk about almost like anything, we've been coming up with these topics every single week, but we want the community to pose us questions. So feel free to tweet us on Twitter with using the hashtag EverythingTERA, no space in that. This week, actually, 2 of our questions have been risen from viewers. Chris over at TERA Today asked us about the new Equalized 3v3, and then a guildie of ours actually asked us regarding the key event, like what we thought of the key event. So we do check that. Make sure to submit your topics, and maybe you'll see your topic next week. For those of you who don't know, I'm Kilryan. You can follow me on Twitter at Kilryan, on Facebook at Kilryan, and check out my YouTube at Kilryan, which features PvE guides, gold guides, and leveling guides. So if you want that kind of content, make sure to check me out.
And this is Flo. You can check me out on Twitter at Flowero, Facebook at Flowero, and YouTube at Flowero if you want to watch videos on competitive 3v3 along with my adventures of me going into PvE, etc.
And your Let's Plays of what was the game?
Witcher 2.
Oh god.
Yeah.
Well, no, the horror one.
Oh, Outlast with Suzumiya.
That is some hilarious stuff. So make sure to check out his YouTube, guys. Thanks for watching. Catch y'all next week. Make sure to submit your topics. Hashtag EverythingTERA. Adios, everybody.
Peace out.